queers, unplug from Twitter discourse and put on your sundresses, because it's time to touch some grass and get some ass. It's motherfucking Pride Month here at Super Despair World, the only podcast that knows the difference between a garden-maxing, sunshine-pilled cottage getaway and the cabin in the woods where those wacky Catholics go all midsummer on your ass for some TikTok views. Shit's pretty gay on this show all year round, but this next month is just for the most colorful slice of our fan base. Dave, why don't you plug our shit to all the boys and soon-to-be girls while I fuck around with the 5G signal.
All right, yeah. Get that 5G amping your blood out. The nanobots.
Make sure your headphones are in nice and tight.
Oh yeah. Get the nanobots activated, baby. But if you are vibing on this podcast or yet to vibe on this podcast, there's only two types of people here. Which way, Western man? We have some more ways to interact with this lovely podcast that we bring to you every week, usually. All things, if everything's going well. But we have a Discord that you can join and come talk to the coolest people on the planet, guaranteed or your money back. But the Discord is free, so, right now it is at least. So get the fuck in there. Get in there. And we also have a Patreon, which you can join for free. But if you want to toss us a sinister $6 to support this lovely content that you find yourself listening to at this very moment, you can jump in there too. And God damn it, we appreciate y'all who've hopped in there already and opened up your metaphorical wallets and just giving us your lovely $6. We
get a little
it,
dangerously southern there, Dave.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just remembering my roots. We're talking. This will maybe
we're getting in character for the show, but let's hold our horses because not only do you guys get a little shout out at the end if you are a Patreon member, paid supporter of this show, but if you are listening to this episode today live when it goes out, we're starting to do some exclusive Patreon only episodes. We're doing like 1 or 2 a month. So if you're listening right now, there's another of those up right now that you can listen to right after this one or before. I don't know. You can pause it. I'm not a cop. But so check that out. We're going to be doing those a lot more regularly. And I will say the first one we recorded, it is pretty fire. You don't want to miss it.
It was a banger. This one was off the cuff. These ones are a little bit more unfiltered, unedited, and god damn it, they're uncensored. But
yeah, by that I mean we don't waste like 3 hours taking notes.
Exactly. But if you enjoyed our Chud profile picture episode, this one's kind of a follow-up to that, and there are some goddamn knee slappers in there. I'm gonna come out and say it right now. I'm not gonna toot my own horn, but I'm gonna toot Briar's horn because I'm allowed to do that. God damn it, it's Pride Month.
Yeah, if you like our regular content, but you've ever thought, man, I really wish I could hear them fumble over their words more and like cough away from the mic, you're in luck because we don't edit the audio as much on those either.
No, not at all. Yeah,
not even a little bit. It's we're working in we thought maybe extra Despair World, but I also like Despair World Raw, although that sounds a bit like porn. So I don't know.
Raw and uncut.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll do a follow up to the Stone Toss.
Stone Toss might like that one. I was just thinking the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, unlike his, we do it right the first time.
Hey.
All right. Yeah. That's the kind of spicy shit we get up to. All right. Let's dive right in today. So today we've got like a whole month planned out. Normally we just kind of like come up with the topic like a day or two before we record, but we've got a whole itinerary of topics lined up for Pride Month, and I thought not all of them are like necessarily directly related to like queer people or whatever, but I think all of these are going to be at least of like somewhat interest to people of that persuasion, or of my persuasion. So I thought today I'd start off with a fun little thing. We're looking at a little subculture, a little movement, a little hashtag maybe on the internet. And I thought we'd start off, Dave. I want to ask you, how familiar are you with the concept of an aesthetic blog?
Oh, an aesthetic blog. Yeah. Those are real spicy. I mean, a lot of blogs, or social media in general. Are we calling blogs social media probably the precursor to that?
I think they kind of became that. I know when I say aesthetic blog, I think that definitely started as like a Tumblr thing, and Tumblr I would definitely consider social media because like you connect with other people, you can follow them or whatever. Unlike some older blogs like Blogspot or whatever. I still have one of those, by the way. Check it out. And or like WordPress and shit, where it's less, there's less of a social element other than I guess leaving comments. But yeah, I don't know. I guess yeah. Let's talk aesthetic blogs. What do you know about those?
So from what I understand, it's a blog, but it is cultivated with a certain type of aesthetic that is kind of representing some sort of like idealized something that the creator or author of this blog is like trying to like embody, I guess.
It's kind of like that. So when I say aesthetic blog, what comes to my mind, and like this is very much a Tumblr thing, so it's a bit out of my wheelhouse. Like I had a Tumblr account when I was in high school. I didn't really post anything though. I just scrolled through it and like liked shit. And I think I started another Tumblr account like a year ago, and I posted like 2 drawings on there, and then I forgot to update it ever since. And it's not really for me. I've missed the golden age of Tumblr. But if you were to ask me, I think an aesthetic blog is like something where a person mostly posts like pictures or maybe like very short bits of writing. It's kind of like a subculture thing. It's like, here's some inspiration for like outfits or like scenes or like just a little collection of things to inspire you towards a certain idea. Maybe you've seen one of them around. Have you ever seen those really like those really tacky like white girl things? It's like just girly things or whatever.
Oh yeah,
it's
yeah.
like a blown up like very very bright photo of like some high school girls, and they're like, just hanging out with your classmates, blah blah blah, just girly things, hashtag whatever, and it's some shit like that. Like that's one of the biggest blogs.
That also that kind of reminds me of I have the unfortunate circumstance of finding myself when I'm searching for like a reference image or something, finding myself on Pinterest a lot, and I still refuse to make a fucking Pinterest account. Just let me look at the goddamn
I love
photos.
and hate Pinterest.
Yeah, but Pinterest has a lot of those where it's just like 90s fashion aesthetic, or like like emo goth girl inspiration or something like that, and it's just a bunch of like images somebody's collected around the internet and put in a little collage. And so I guess that's kind of tangential to an aesthetic blog. Is that similar?
Yeah, so I think I wanted to bring this up because today we are talking about a very specific type of aesthetic blog, a little thing called Cottagecore, which is like it's kind of like an online subculture, kind of an aesthetic thing. It deals with like pastoral images, like little cottages in the countryside, pictures of people like going out in the garden, like exploring nature, like picking mushrooms, stuff like that. Very like old fashioned, like maybe kind of traditional living, very like not a modernity sort of deal. And we're looking at like the history of that and like what it became. And I thought maybe we would start off looking at like, okay, what does it mean to be like an aesthetic blog versus like a subculture? Because this is very much like it started as a very online internet thing, which I think kind of distinguishes it from a lot of other like subcultures that we might have like grown up with in real life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So that's a thing, is like, I mean, right off the cuff, I would say that like a subculture is people like actually being interested in and living this thing and interacting with other people that are part of like for a culture to exist, it cannot exist like in and of itself, or well, the people within it cannot exist in and of themselves. It has to be kind of like a group thing. There has to be kind of community associated to a culture. I think intrinsically that's kind of like how culture works. But
not only that, but I would say not just like a community, because you can find a community to a degree online. I think we have a pretty good one on our Discord. But the thing is, I think a subculture needs like an element of like closeness, like geographically. You have to be around these people like in real life. You have to actually interact with other human beings, and also like a subculture might even have like a written like is maybe code of ethics the wrong word, or maybe like a set of ideas. Like when we talk about, for instance, the punk subculture, there's a lot of like very clear ideas written down about like a do-it-yourself sort of attitude, sort of like a rejection of like commercialization or whatever, stuff like that. But when we look at something like an aesthetic like cottagecore or whatever, it's basically just like a hashtag, and anyone can just like organically contribute to it over time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, like, we use the term aesthetics to talk about a lot of things, and a lot of times it's not necessarily framed in a positive sense, in the sense of like there's a lot of times that we frame this in a sense of like inauthenticity, where it's just like you're co-opting the vibes of this, but you're not really like living this like authentically, I guess.
It's like it's shallow. It can come off a little vapid. Like when you say something is like just aesthetic, it's like, oh, it's just like an image. There's not like an actual substance underneath it.
And I haven't spent too much time looking at cottagecore shit, but I have come across it in my time, and like I don't know, like, I mean, the pictures are cool.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been deep into the whole aesthetic blog, Tumblr subculture thing, but you know, I look at these things and like, I think I can definitely understand the appeal of some of this. So maybe we can start unpacking like some of what makes up cottagecore, what makes it what it is, and like maybe what draws people into it.
Yeah, and I think like it kind of comes with a lot of the anxieties people have about modern life. You know, we're all a little alienated from each other due to capitalism. Like, a lot of people work jobs that they're not really connected to, and they just kind of do it to get money and pay rent, and like a lot of this, and like we're definitely like very disconnected from nature. There's a lot of shit going on with all of the really shitty practices that we as a modern society do to just like completely shit on the environment. And like it does sound, I mean, have you ever watched like a Studio Ghibli movie and where they kind of frame it as this like solar punk kind of thing, and it's just like, oh man, that looks real nice. Like, why can't we have that?
It's kind of funny that you mentioned solar punk, because I think one of the most striking examples of that was, it was an animation, but it wasn't a Studio Ghibli, whatever. It wasn't from them. It was from a fucking like yogurt commercial. You ever see this one?
Oh yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
It's like the multicultural like family out on the farm, and they've got all these fancy like gadgets and shit, and they're growing crops and
completely forgot about that.
And they have like a big family dinner outside. And I'm like, wow, this is like a stunning level. Like, it's actually pretty fucking good animation. It's like, this is for a fucking yogurt commercial.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, whose idea was this? You guys went real hard on this.
Yeah, Satan really gave his personal blessing to those advertisers that day. They actually like convinced me that this was made by real people and not like marketers for once.
Yeah, right? It's like, hey, marketing people, you could be not terrible. You could make something of value. You just choose not to.
Yeah, no,
do better.
I'm just riffing a little bit. I know there's a lot of like perfectly like good and genuine artists who do just happen to work in like very commercial things. Maybe like, I don't know, a lot of people who work on gotcha games. Maybe
we got to pay the bills. We got to pay the bills. But I mean that goes into the.
You're not gonna bite. I brought up gotcha games just to bait you a little bit.
See, I didn't take the bait. I didn't take the.
All
bait.
right. I see. Well, I'll get you sometime this month.
Yeah. But I mean that does play into the to the appeal of this shit, is just like when you find yourself in like a world of fucking highways and like fucking strip malls and McMansions and suburban hellscapes. It's like yeah, you come across like an Instagram reel of somebody like harvesting carrots in their cute little garden in their nice little cottage somewhere, like making tea and sitting on a table next to the window and just enjoying the sounds of the birds. That sounds real nice.
I will say it is pretty nice because you listed out at least like 4 things that I've done today.
Yeah, fuck you. I listen to construction noises outside of my apartment.
All right. I will say, yeah, it's like just this, I don't know, crazy idea some people get that, oh, I don't want to live in a parking lot. I want to live in like, you know, around trees and lakes and mountains and shit. Yeah. Wow. Who would have thought? Yeah, I think, yeah, when you bring up like solar punk, I think that's definitely like the high tech version of cottagecore, basically, but they definitely get at a lot of the same stuff, like living out in nature, not having to deal with like a lot of like the stress of modernity, like fucking getting up at like 7 a.m. to go to some like dead end office job that you'll get like let go of for like bullshit reasons, like next quarter or whatever. And yeah, like I don't know, there's a lot to unpack there of like on some level there's definitely like kind of an idealization of like a pre-modern past, right? Like before we lived in a more industrialized society and people did live more communally out in nature. We had like all these like villages and hamlets where like people were a lot like closer with their neighbors. It was less of this like nuclear family bullshit where like everybody's like got their own little white picket fence and like they're hiding a shotgun under their bed because they're like terrified of every one of their neighbors.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and also it used to be like socially acceptable to marry your cousin back then, so that's another point of appeal for a lot of people. Not me.
You know. Okay, we like to make jokes like that, but I've heard some things recently that apparently a lot of those stereotypes, like about people like in the southern United States, like having like a whole incest thing. I've heard that apparently a lot of those rumors came about from like people just like trying to like discredit them, like, oh, look at these like disgusting poor people or whatever. So I don't actually know how much truth there is to a lot of those.
I think it depends on what time period we're actually talking about, because I'm pretty sure that in like outside of large cities, it was not that uncommon to marry your cousin, just because like there weren't that many people around and you knew them, and it's like, so like I wouldn't doubt that. I am not a historical scholar.
That is true, but on the other hand, we do have like very clear like historical records of like European nobility and royals and shit that were like, you know, inbreeding all the time.
Oh,
to keep it in the family or whatever. So I don't know, maybe that's a thing for a future episode to unpack. I didn't really plan to start off Pride Month with an incest discussion. I'll be real with you.
I think cousin fucking is like a pretty It's pretty mild as far as incest
sit down,
goes.
white boy. This is my month.
Okay, I'm sorry. You're right. I'm gonna sit down and listen.
Street.
I'm sitting down and listening. You're right.
All right. Although, where was I actually going with this? Right. Okay. So like the appeal of cottagecore, right? A lot of it is like, yeah, kind of that return to like a simpler time where like, yeah, maybe we don't have a lot of like modern conveniences or whatever, but I think there's kind of this vibe. We often talk about like the tech sector on this show, and I don't know, maybe I'm just speaking for myself here. I often feel like I look at a lot of the technological developments of like the last 20 years or so, and I'm like, wow, fucking none of this actually makes my life better. It's all just stuff to like justify us like doing more work but getting paid the same amount or less. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just like different versions of things that already existed but worse. It's like, oh, we have a taxi, but you can like, but like a dude who like makes who like just makes really like minimum wage at his job does this on the side so he can afford rent. And it's also like 10 times more expensive than a taxi.
Yeah, or you've got instead of a hotel, you can go to this one person's like basement suite that they let you sleep in. But also, if you like knock over one book, they'll charge you an extra.
Yeah, you also have to like do the laundry and the dishes afterwards. So it's like a hotel, but you have to do your own housework.
You just get to be the shithead's roommate for like 2 days for like $800.
Yeah, it's exactly. It's a hotel, but you're the person who owns a hotel lives above you, and if you talk at at like a normal indoor voice, they'll start stomping on the ground and give you a 1-star review. Awesome.
Yeah, it's a real mess. But on that note, I want to say, okay, another appeal of cottagecore is like, that like. It's this like fantasy of having like being able to slow down in your life, not having to be like maximum efficiency, worrying about like the exact hours like you're going to work. You do shit when you do shit. You pick the crops when they're ripe and not sooner or something like that. In a lot of ways, I think people don't really like frame them as like two sides of the same thing, but I think there's a real like opposite like thing going on between like cottagecore, like the ideal of it, and the sort of like hustle culture, like grind set sort of deal where it's like you gotta be working and producing shit 24/7. You know, I think in a lot of ways it people into cottagecore, it's kind of a rejection of that.
Yeah, and I agree with that, but it's kind of like two different divergent paths of a response to like the average person's lifestyle here, where it's either like, because the hustle culture people, their goal with this is to make so much money that they can just chill out and do nothing. And the hustle or the cottagecore people are to just their goal is to just like chill out and do nothing. So it's kind of like two sides of the same coin, but I think the unifying thread between them is both of these things require a pretty sizable sum of money, which I don't think is talked about that much, especially in the cottagecore one.
Yeah, I will say, okay, this actually plays into my life experiences a little bit. So I used to live in like a pretty like suburban. My hometown was very suburbsy, and for a couple of years I lived in the big old city of Vancouver for a couple of years for college. And you know, I got used to city life for a bit. It was pretty comfortable in a lot of ways, but also very like stressful in other ways, like just having to catch the bus commute to go to college all the time, or just hearing like a lot of weird noises outside my apartment at like 3 a.m. or whatever. It's just very busy. It never completely eases up. And about 2 or 3 years ago, I left my hometown behind, and I moved to a very rural area, and it's been like a big shift in how life works. Getting used to things like not having a lot of like conveniences like fucking meal delivery apps and shit. Although I think they've really gotten too fucking expensive nowadays, so I don't miss those as much.
Yeah.
But the other thing I was gonna say is, when I look at people talk about like the fantasy of cottagecore living, being out in nature, being away from the city or whatever, I think it's definitely like a bit of an escapist thing, because they very much like downplay a lot of the practical considerations of it. Like, it's hard to get anything done here if you don't have a car. Like, there's like a grocery store like a mile from me that like it's kind of in walking distance, but also we live up in the mountains, so it's like, you really gotta shovel the shit out of your driveway in winter, and you really need a car to get anything done, or like you're much more like vulnerable to like the elements of nature. Just like it's more common to have like longer power outages or like wildfires and shit. I don't know. It's just a different beat from city or suburban life, and you don't really see a lot of that like taken into account, like what real rural country living is like compared to the cottagecore fantasy.
Oh yeah, exactly. And that's a thing which kind of goes back to when we were talking about like the inauthenticity of these like Instagram accounts and blogs and shit like that, where it's just like,
none of these people have lived in the country.
Oh yeah,
none
yeah,
of them.
yeah. But like the aesthetic put forward is just this like, every day I wake up to the bluebirds singing on my shoulder and shit like that, and it's like, I don't like. None of you really.
Today,
like,
my gay wife and I woke up in bed, and we read books, and we baked pie, and we butchered a chicken, and then we read some books again.
yeah, and it's like, I don't think any of you really know what goes on to like being like a homesteader. In like I mean, because there were like frontier people in the Americas that actually did this shit, and they actually made like incredibly grueling journeys west, in the Americas at least, and just to like find some plot of land and settle down there and kind of try to like, plant some shit and raise some animals and stuff like that. And it's
yeah,
like,
or more like find some group of people and then slaughter them down to a man and then take their land afterwards.
Yes, yeah. More accurately, yes. Yeah. Or they might have been pre-slaughtered. We don't know. I think there might have been
it's a long history. Maybe we'll do that another episode.
Yeah. Fucking pretty
but
gross. But like,
I don't know,
but yeah, they weren't
to...
living some idyllic lifestyle where they just like woke up and had a nice little cup of tea and I'm picking the berries off the trees now and my children are frolicking. It's like, no, they fucking worked their asses off. Like
yeah, like to downplay it significantly, like I don't work nearly as hard or do nearly as much violence as like colonial settlers or whatever, but
yes.
like there's all these blogs that post like cute little pictures of like, oh, I'm tending to my vegetable garden or whatever. I'm like, man, it gets hot outside, okay? You ever do fucking gardening for a couple hours? Okay, it's work. It's not a fun fantasy thing. It's actual work. You gotta put some blood, sweat, and tears into that.
Yeah, and it's satisfying, but like, why do we have this? Why do they have this like onus to try to make it seem like? So this is the funny thing is like, this is how it like really diverges from this hustle culture thing, where like they'll do a hustle culture blog and it's like, wake up 4 a.m. cold shower, punch myself in the dick for an hour to remind myself I'm alive. Get on the computer, hustling.
Take the gun out of my mouth.
I'm fucking working. I'm making money. answer emails. This is fucking stressful. Holy shit. Down 7 liters of coffee. It shit's going crazy. And it's just like, no, they actually, like, they have, like, the easiest job on the fucking planet, and they're trying to make it seem like some intense fucking bullshit. Like, it's like Elon Musk shit, where they're just like, I work 95 hours a day. I know that's not even possible, but I made it happen with my quantum time.
And then you look on their account, and it's like, this person has tweeted 300 times since 8 a.m.
No, he only tweets on the toilet, which means the dude must have, like, the strongest case of IBS I've ever seen, because the dude's tweeting probably, like, 50 to 60 times a day. But
he's the emperor of mankind on his golden throne.
Right. But so that's the thing, is these people try to make whatever fucking bullshit, do nothing, sit on my chair and look at the computer office job seem more like difficult and stressful and serious than it is. Whereas the Cottagecore people try to make, well, their version of whatever they think, like, you know, being a homesteader is, make it seem more like idyllic and fun and lighthearted and just wonderful than it actually is. So it's two sides of the same fucking bullshit coin. I don't want to use the term grifter too much, but it kind of I'm not going to say that it's a straight up grift, but it is grift adjacent.
I think, all right, I'm gonna come out. I'm kind of two sides on this, because I think there's definitely some element of it that is 100% a grift, which I think we're gonna talk about in like the latter quarter of this show. But I'm gonna maybe play a little devil's advocate, maybe a little contradiction here, and I wanted to unpack a little bit about like some of the reasons like other people might really be into it. We brought up this topic to start off Pride Month, because I thought one of the things that crossed my mind is like, man, a lot of people into cottagecore are just like really gay as fuck, and I thought it's kind of interesting to unpack some of the reasons why. And just off the top of my head, I've always said something along the lines of like, you look at a lot of like these like little video games that they're based around doing like timely chores or whatever, like your Stardew Valley or your like your Harvest Moon or something like that, or even like I guess some versions of The Sims, those kind of like lifestyle like chore simulator sort of games. And like why do these pop off so much with my fellow queers? And I think a big element of it is like kind of the fantasy of just being allowed to like exist and be a normal fucking person in like a rural community without getting like hate crimed or like harassed by your like weirdly conservative neighbors.
Yeah, that's a really interesting take. I never thought about that. That's why I need to sit down and listen. But yeah, I mean that totally makes sense. And I never thought about that too, because I do know that like, yeah, Stardew and Harvest Moon and a lot of that type of shit does have like a pretty queer following. And
yeah, a lot of those games are like, it's not just like a real like rural community where like, let's be real, a lot of rural communities are very like suburban, where like neighbors don't know each other that well. You got people who tend to lean a little bit more on the conservative side of things. People talk about like America having red states and blue states or whatever, but it's really more of like an urban versus rural divide, right? Like you go to somewhere like Austin, Texas, it's not like the rest of Texas, you know what I mean?
Yeah. This is, if you didn't already know this, the difference between a red state and a blue state and a swing state is the amount of urban areas versus the amount of rural areas and the populations within each. So like the reason that California and New York will always swing blue is because they have a massive city population in this place that's going to massively overshadow the rural population. But in other places when it's kind of mixed, or in other places when there's not a lot of big cities, then they could go either way or they could go red. But
Yeah, I know a lot of people have been speculating about like Texas flipping at some point in the future, because like they've passed a lot of laws to like try to drive more liberal leaning people out of there, but also like the state is just like full of really big cities, and a lot of businesses are like, no, we gotta incentivize people to move out here.
Well,
and the people moving
tech
for work
sphere
are probably more lib leaning, you know?
Yeah, well, the tech sphere is they're trying to make Texas like the new Silicon Valley, because California has too high taxes and laws and all this type of shit. So they're trying to go there, and if that succeeds, then yeah, Texas will be oddly a very blue state. But yeah, that's pretty fun.
Yeah, maybe that's the thing for another time. Not to get too political in this not stressful at all election year.
Yeah,
we'll unpack that at some point. But the thing I wanted to say was, yeah, I think for a lot of people, no, let me walk this back. Let me start over. I was going to say, I think in the past, I think we've made it clear that the stance of this podcast when it comes to escapism is like, it's kind of pussy shit, right? It's like,
Facts.
you need to focus on your own life. I don't think there's a problem with being into like fantasy and sci-fi bullshit. God knows that makes up like literally all of my hobbies outside of doing this show for you guys. But a big thing that I came across while doing some research for this episode is the idea, and this really stuck with me, that escapism is kind of uncritical, right? And what does that mean? When I say uncritical, I mean like when we talk about people's like escapist fantasies, like let's say queer people wanting to exist out like closer to nature, just being able to live their lives, maybe not being as stressed about like work and stuff. Like I know a lot of queer people generally live more in poverty like than the average person in the US or whatever, just not having to worry about that. I'm like, okay, you can have your like fantasy about what this idyllic life would be like, and you're not going to be like super critical about that and worrying about like, oh no, that's not what actual rural living is like. Because I do think, you know, for a lot of these people running like the aesthetic blogs or whatever on Tumblr, they're probably just like teenagers or like college kids or whatever. And I want to try to be like a good faith and assume like, okay, most people probably just like accept this is a fantasy, and they're not like, oh, this is a real thing that we're actually gonna live up to, or like this is a thing I'm gonna work towards, and life is gonna be so much easier once I just like buy a house in the country or something. But I guess the point I'm working towards is like, yeah, maybe the reason it appeals a lot to like queer, like marginalized sort of people is because like, yeah, life is hard for everybody right now. Life is harder for some people for like bullshit reasons.
Facts.
I can't really blame anyone for just wanting to like make their life a little better by, I don't know, maybe like scrolling Twitter, and instead of like reading some weird dipshit Nazi post, you see like, oh, here's a cute little photo of like a flower basket. Oh, that made my day like 1% better or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, like fundamentally it's harmless, but I mean, are there situations in which this aesthetic becomes unharmless?
Yeah, definitely, for sure. And I guess this is about the time we can move into that, because for a lot of people, yeah, the whole cottagecore thing, it is just like a little bit of an escapist fantasy, especially for like the queer, like Stardew Valley, just want to bake pies with my girlfriend in a sundress sort of crowd. But
yeah, been there, feel that. Am I right?
Yeah,
lady?
I'm in a sundress right now. Not really. Maybe once the Patreon numbers go up. Please fund my cottagecore dreams.
Yeah, fund Briar's. I'm a huge fan of sundresses, so I fully support your.
I just while we were talking earlier, I got the craziest idea. What if I started up like a little cottagecore aesthetic blog, and I do all the cute little things like, oh, I'm planting strawberries in my garden. Oh, I'm baking a pie. Oh, I'm reading a book under the shade of a tree. But every like 5th or 6th post is just like, time to cut the head off my chickens.
Oh yeah, see that would be better. But I think some people that's what would separate the wheat from the chaff. For sure is just like the people who are like, I used to follow this blog, but that's scary. And then there are people who are like, that's a good head cutting off chicken technique. Yes, you could.
I will take a moment to brag a little bit. Every year in my house, my mom's got this like meat grinding machine where you put meat in one end and you like crank this lever like
the
like a
sausage
radial
maker?
motion. Yeah, we make sausages. I swear I've shown you photos of this in our DMs where like we've got this rack in our garage in the winter when it gets cold enough and we can like dry the sausages out and shit, and it fucks so hard.
I mean that's the thing. That's like actual cottagecore living. Whereas like I think most of these people they plant like 7 carrots and like some herbs in their garden, and then the rest of the shit they like buy at the fucking the local co-op, and they're just like, oh yeah, living off the land, because they like put like 4 chives that they
or more like you got some like 19-year-old taking their like weed grow lights and trying to make some strawberries.
Yeah. That would be funny is like some kid in the suburbs like secretly doing cottagecore like in their closet, but instead of growing
Tommy,
weed,
what are you doing in there? What's in your closet?
Instead of growing weed, they're like growing lettuce in their fucking closet.
Why are you covered in grass stains? What are you hiding?
Nothing, Mom. Nothing. Go away. I'm going to. She's like, what's in there? What's in your closet? You're growing lettuce again. You're moving out. I'm going to live with Dad.
Just a fucking post on Instagram like, gonna be offline for a bit, guys. She found the onion drawer.
Mom found the shallots, guys. Does anybody in Portland have a couch to crash on? Mom found the shallot drawer. It's over.
I will say another fun little bit of country living we do out here is we haven't gotten like our eggs from like a proper grocery store in like the last 3 years, because a couple miles from my house down the highway, down this like shitty little like dirt service road next to the highway, we go to this like Methodist farm or whatever, and we walk into their barn. It's completely unattended. You just walk in and you open this random fridge and you just take some eggs out of the fridge and you leave like a few dollar bills in this like cup on the shelf.
Yeah, I've seen these before. Not with eggs, but with like firewood and like potatoes and like in random shit. And it's just like, yeah, here's a money box. And here's like the thing, and they've been up forever. Like maybe some either shitty person or somebody who's like really really homeless like takes it. Obviously, it's not a big deal, but like surely most people just like leave money in the box, and it's just like that is really a testament to how like we could live that way if we just trusted each other. And
yeah, well, that's the other thing I think a lot of people underestimate about rural living is you kind of have to like deal with people more often. You kind of have to have like a bit more of like social trust in your neighbors or like people that live around you to like enjoy little conveniences like that, because the alternative to getting eggs for cheap from the little Methodist farm out here is driving like an entire like 40 minutes to the nearest Walmart or some shit.
Exactly.
For shittier eggs.
Exactly. And it's like when you cultivate a culture of just people like being like neighbor against neighbor, everybody's suspect against each other. It's like, yeah, people are gonna act shitty because you're planting this idea in their head that like everybody is each other's enemy, but like in certain like communities, it's just like, oh yeah, like you can, yeah, just
like little things. Like when I go out to the grocery store, like 2 miles from my house, and I'm just like pulling out of the driveway, I'll often see like my old neighbors like out watering their lawn or like like taking their dog for a walk. And like I didn't deal with this as much in the suburbs because everybody was like inside all the time or just like driving out to the Walmart or some shit. But it's like, yeah, you actually see people going about their day, and like I don't know most of my neighbors' names or whatever, but like I smile and I wave, and like they clearly like recognize me. I think like one of the things that really takes me out of it is seeing like, oh, a lot of these like very like cosmopolitan like young queer people that like fantasize about it. I'm like, a lot of you guys are the same sort of people that like you get too anxious to like order a pizza on the phone. You know what I mean? And if you want to live rural, like, you got to deal with people like that.
Right. And like it's the same with like city life. It's like these people are like, oh, there's no third space, and like there's no communities anymore. And these are the same people who will like, they'll walk out of their house or something and they see their neighbor out and they just like lock the door and go back. It's like, oh, never mind. It's like, because like saying hello to somebody and how you doing is like too anxious for them, which is like, I mean, like that's pretty cringe, but it's also like, the reason this is so commonplace now is because we have become incredibly alienated from each other as people.
And I don't want to make it sound like it's a perfectly clean divide. Like obviously, yeah, there are some like unhinged weirdos in the country that'll just like peek through the blinders of their window and be like, what's my neighbor building there, you know? Or like back when I lived in the city, there were a couple times where like I lived in Vancouver. I went to the fucking Vancouver Art Gallery, this cool ass museum with a lot of like different exhibits or stuff. I saw some really great shows. Maybe I'll talk about those on a bonus episode. It's not really main episode content, but yeah, there have been a few times where I've been out at like the art gallery and I just struck up a random conversation with a stranger when we've just been like staring at the same painting for a bit, and just like that little back and forth, you know, they're perfectly like social like cool people to meet in the city too. So I don't want to make it sound like, yeah, the country is so much better, or like, oh, the city is shit, or like vice versa. But I do think, yeah, a lot of people when it comes to things they underestimate about like rural country living is like you kind of by necessity like need to be a little more personable with your neighbors. Like, and I know that that's really difficult if you're like a queer person or something. Maybe your neighbors just aren't necessarily going to be cool with you, but like I don't know, I think there's a lot of things you can do to like, I hate to phrase it as like just act more normal and they'll be nice to you, but like little things, like my neighbors don't give a shit like when I like smile and wave to them, you know. There's a lot of little things you can do to just like build up some of that like a community element that I think we've really like lost in modern times.
And I think that's like the unifying thing between like city and country life is I don't think there's like fundamentally, as far as interactions with other people, other than the fact that like cities have a more dense amount of people. And in the thing with cities is like there are a shit ton of people around, so you're around a lot of people, but like you're around so many people that a lot of them you might not have any sort of relationship with. And then it's
like an anonymity in numbers,
right?
Or like,
because it's just you're just kind of like there's like a fatigue of being around so many people, and it's like, well, I can't be friends with every single person on the floor of my flat. Whereas like a country, like you might know all of your neighbors, but it's like you might not know them that well because you're kind of far away from each other, but there's not that many people, so you could at the same time. But it's just like it's just different, and neither of these are better than each other. They're just different at the end of the day.
Yeah, I will say, like, there's more stuff to do in cities, but, like, you can also much more easily live just as, like, a completely antisocial NEET or something in a city. Like, even if you go out to, like, a bar or a club or something,
100%.
You could just be too much of, like, an awkward weirdo to actually strike a conversation with anybody, and it just turns out you just wasted, like, 3 hours of your night paying, like, $40 for a drink and not talking to anyone. Exactly. Whereas, like, in the country, like, your life is gonna get, like, noticeably worse if you don't, like, have some bare minimum like contact with your neighbors. Also because you'll go insane because there's less people out here.
Yeah. It's actually like like solitary confinement. But yeah, that's the thing. If you're in like a really dense city, like you can go to some bar somewhere and sit by yourself and order a bunch of drinks, and not a soul will talk to you unless you make an effort. But
yeah, it takes effort either way. But hey, we're getting up there on time, so I wanted to say, speaking of going insane, let's talk about the insane side of country. Country,
and you know, with any sort of like online thing, anything dealing with an aesthetic, it's gonna get insane at some point. There's got to be some level of insanity at the end of the rainbow.
Yeah, guys, we're gonna talk about porn, and we're gonna talk about a very unorthodox kind of porn. It's the kind of porn you see on TikTok, which might be very safe for work. So a lot of the people who are into quote-unquote cottagecore are not just like young cosmopolitan queer people who maybe like have a few like misguided ideas about what the country is like. There's a lot of people who just like swear by it like a lifestyle, like a way of life that not only is good and better than not being cottagecore, it's something they kind of want everybody to do. And I alluded to this in the intro of the episode. There's a whole like weird like traditional Catholic but also like evangelical, just like religious in general, like very conservative leaning side of the cottagecore thing. And Dave, what does some of that content look like? Because I know you've probably been exposed to a fair bit of it.
I mean, you all saw that coming, right? There's like a return to tradition kind of just like group of people who always have to see anything like this, and they gotta spin it, and they're like, all right, to be fair, a lot of this content, when there are people in here and not just like pictures of flower baskets and gardens and stuff like that, what is the general demographic of the humans represented in these in this aesthetic in the photos?
It's capital H white people.
Absolutely,
right?
Absolutely, and not just white people, but white women. Usually, like not just white women, but like blonde, Aryan-looking white women.
This definitely looks like the sort of thing that like the Hitler Youth would be into if they were still around in the 2020s.
100%. And the unfortunate thing is that when these kind of images are put forth as some sort of like idealistic aesthetic that is very appealing, and it's just like a blonde woman with blue eyes, very svelte, just kind of like twirling around in a
she's
prairie.
Barefoot and pregnant.
Yes, exactly. Like it reads like a fucking like a goddamn like Nazi fucking propaganda poster. Like and wow, what a fucking surprise! Who ends up in the comments? Nazis.
For sure. Yeah. Have you ever seen this is going overseas a little bit, but have you ever seen that picture of like Shinzo Abe overlooking the landscape of Japan, and the text just says "have sex"?
Yes.
that's like the exact same vibe I get from a lot of this sort of content.
That's why they killed him. That's why they killed him. The globalists had to get our boy Shinzo Abe with the doohickey because he was trying.
They killed my man not just with any gun, but with a gun that kills not just the man, but the idea of the man as well.
They made a goddamn gun with a piece of plywood and two fucking pipes. Like, oh shit.
Yeah, that's real country shit right there. By the way, boys.
Yes, exactly. All right, that's real cottagecore, is making like an improvised killing device.
See, that's another thing that could go on my Cottagecore blog, like alongside posts of like butchering the chickens. It's like, yeah, building illegal firearms.
Hey, just pick some chives for my baked potato today with my husband and my and my daughter Lavender. I also made like a pipe bomb to like take out City Hall. because they
Yeah,
didn't
this fucking coyote got into my garden, so I had to stab it to death with a pitchfork. Here's the video. I think this vlog maybe would pop off. Maybe I'll do that if the podcast thing doesn't work out.
yeah. I would like and subscribe for sure.
I'm sure you would. All right, but earlier I described this as porn, right? And I feel like I should probably explain that a little bit. A big thing about this is like you see a lot of these videos, and it's like I'm a trad wife, I'm a traditional Catholic wife or whatever, and here's what my day looks like. And you see them go through their day. It's like, okay, I get dressed, I look after the kids. Oh, I'm baking like a big old pie for the kids or whatever, and like they're trying to like glorify this image of like, yeah, this is what like old fashioned like pre-modernity living was like before we were like corrupted by the dark influence of technology or whatever. But at the same time, all the people producing this are like, you don't have a real job. You're like a social media person.
Without
you have
question.
like film equipment, you have like a big fancy kitchen, you have like all these like materials and like ingredients in excess because you no doubt just got those from the fucking Walmart like 40 minutes away. You didn't get this from your fucking like garden or whatever. I remember there was like one specific video I watched where there's a clip of this trad wife lady, and she's like supposedly picking strawberries from her garden, but you can very clearly see, oh no, those strawberries are perfectly clean. She just took some strawberries from Walmart and like put them in the ground and then turned the camera on.
Yeah, without question. And on top of that too, it's like they frame it as this thing of just like, what's your excuse, modern man? Quit your job and move to the secluded country and just like live off the earth like us. And it's also like, with what money? Like what? Like.
And what job?
In what job? That's the thing too. Yeah, that's the thing too. Is like, okay, cool. I'll just buy this plot of land for like $100,000 and then just build a house on it for this like perfect little place, and then like they like have like appliances, so there must be.
This is a bit of a different thing, but since you brought up building a house, have you ever seen those YouTube channels that's like primitive technology?
Oh yeah, and they're
something?
all bullshit. They're all bullshit.
I've seen like there's evidence where people did like flyby camera surveillance with like a drone or something, and you can clearly see like a full-on like modern construction crew with like,
and there's like tractor treads of them bringing in heavy machinery and that shit. It's complete bullshit. Just like, man, we are in the fucking age of grifting right now, and it all makes me so fucking mad. Not only because like people are grifting, but it's just like, man, we need fucking media literacy so bad right now because like shit, like I'm not gonna lie, like I've probably watched one of those things and been like, oh, that's neat. Like I didn't like.
I think there's at least one or two of the primitive tech guys who do it for real, but most of them are like just faking it. You know?
Well, there are people who like they'll make little like mud huts, like survival shelters.
They'll make something like slightly bigger than a dog house.
Exactly.
I can believe
exactly. But there are people who make some like epic thing, and it's like complete bullshit. That's why I really like. I'm just gonna shout out the YouTube channel. This is related to Cottagecore. If you want to really know what like this type of shit is like from like actual people who are actually interested in like colonial life and actually do like a bunch of research and are really, really cool. Like the have you ever watched the YouTube channel Townsends?
Yes, those guys are legit.
They're
pretty
so cool. Like everybody on that channel is so cool, and it's gonna be this thing of just like how to build a log cabin, and they kind of do this like experimental archaeology type of thing of just like they use these traditional methods and kind of see like how much work goes into this, and it's not just like doing primitive methods to make a house, and it's all fucking complete bullshit from some like dude with fucking tribal tattoos on his arm. Like, fuck that shit. But Townsend's fucking rocks. Those other people, fuck you. Grifters, you suck. We hate you.
Yeah, and speaking of grifters, I'm sorry, I want to keep going back to this because I feel like I've insufficiently explained the whole porn thing.
Right.
I wanted to say when I describe this stuff as porn, I think the big thing I'm getting at, especially when you look at like the trad wife type of content, it's not just that they're dealing in like with like such like modern excess, like the camera equipment, having a social media job, like buying all their shit from Walmart, but also like it's a lot of women on screen. But I think the main like audience for this sort of thing is like white men, right? Because they're like, it's like, oh, I'm not actually interested in learning how to bake a pie or some shit. I just want to see this like woman in her place, and I think she's like setting an example for what I think all of them should do. And it's like, yeah, at the end of the day, it's like, how does that one phrase go that like all like political ideology is just like a sexual pathology,
sexual insecurity? Yeah, for sure. And it's like,
yeah, and I don't know if I believe like 100% of it is, but I'm leaning solidly in the like 30 to 50 50%.
I will amend that to say it's some combination of sexual and economic insecurity.
Yeah, that too, because that's another big element
of like, the spread between that is going to vary from person to person, but I think these are the two most like ethereal onuses for like somebody to have problematic views is insecurity, either in economics and or like sexual insecurity.
Yeah, I mean, okay, on the one hand, we always want to be a little bit careful when we talk about like financial insecurity or something like that, because like I remember back during the days of like Charlottesville or whatever, and it's like, look at all these young men who are really anxious about the economy, and it's like the fucking tiki torch guys saying Jews will not replace us. Like, okay, they're not actually worried about the economy or something like that. But at the same time, when it comes to a lot of the like traditional tradcath cottagecore type content, I do think a lot of it is people like glorifying this like pre-modern thing of like, oh yeah, back not too long ago in history, like women were not financially independent. They had to settle for like, frankly, like shitty, unremarkable guys just to get like basic economic rights or like have a house over their head past a certain age. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that is fair. And I'll amend my previous statement to say that it also comes down to like power dynamics of like there's a certain class of people, and I think these are the most like the scummiest people when it comes to all this. And there's obviously a lot of overlap all the time where it's just like they really just care about like having power over other people. It's really like they love hierarchies as long as they have a favorable position in them, I guess.
Yeah, and it's a very like a tribalistic sort of thing. They don't actually care about anything other than like owning the other side. I know a lot of people saw
like
this
sports
like
teams.
Yeah, I know a lot of people saw this a couple of years ago. Do you remember I think it was like a TikTok clip or something where Ben Shapiro went to like a Home Hardware and he's like, look guys, I bought this like 2x4 piece of wood. I'm such a hardworking country guy now.
With like they put it in a bag for him and like it was hanging like 3/4 out of the bag. And he probably like insisted on taking the bag. He was like, can I get a bag please? And they're like,
yeah, this is like Ben Shapiro trying to pretend he's not the most like effete, like limp-wristed, like failed Hollywood writer guy.
Without question, like I really love these guys just like putting their insecurities on fucking blast.
I'm just a little skeptical when a guy who talks like this tries to convince you that he's some sort of like ideal of masculinity.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Masculinity is dead. And also, I bought a 2x4, and I'm going to do construction work right now.
I'm going to build a big, beautiful shed, and I'm going to sleep in it, and my wife is going to live in our home, and I'm just going to live in the shed while she entertains a guest.
If her vagina becomes wet, it's a medical condition, and that's why her vagina is always dry. Every time I take my pants off, her vagina is dry. That is a medical fact, and you cannot tell me otherwise.
we just had to get that last little bit about Shabibo in there.
Yeah, what a guy.
What a guy, what a character. Yeah, so I guess I don't know, kind of winding things down a bit. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of grifters and like misled people out there. So I guess I'm trying to draw the line here between like relatively like cool, chill, like maybe young, like queer people or whatever that just are into like cottagecore. Like, it's just an aesthetic thing that they like. Maybe they just happen to really be into like country sort of fashion and reading like the Lord of the Rings or some shit like that, versus like the more like insidious like Catholic like country porn grifters or whatever you want to call them. And I don't know, I think like I said earlier, the whole thing about like escapism as a fantasy, like we're pretty against escapism here, but like I'm not 100% against it. And I think when I said like escapism is uncritical, I think if you find yourself like you're really into this cottagecore stuff, I think maybe the best thing you could do is just like try to like make some of it real and like step away from the fantasy. Like maybe, I don't know, start being a little more social with your neighbors. Maybe like try taking up a hobby. Like if you live somewhere where it works, like you can do a lot of like little like beginner gardening, even if you don't have like a big fucking like acreage of land or something like that. And I think, I don't know, try to like separate the unhealthy imaginary stuff from like, what can I actually get out of this that'll make my life better. And like, for the love of God, don't fucking like buy into any grifters like telling you how to live the perfect life, because they're not living that life either.
Without question, fucking perfect take, 10 out of 10. And I'll just say, like, it comes back to the thing that I keep coming back to episode after episode. Stop making shit your identity. If there are certain aspects of this shit that appeal to you, yeah, gardening, cool. Country living, cool. Being outside, cool. Just
butchering chickens,
building
doohickeys, hiding the bodies, feeding them to the pigs.
Yeah. All of this shit very objectively cool. Do what you can with what you can now, and like, you know, maybe if you can't do full cottagecore country living, then maybe that's something to like aspire to down the road. Like, you know, the sky's the limit, guys. You can, I know everything's tough for everybody right now. It doesn't have to be some fucking idyllic bullshit all the time. Just like, just do your best. You're gonna be fine. I promise you, you're gonna be okay. You're gonna be okay, and just do cool shit that appeals to you. You don't need to fit into this entire box, this identity of like these people that do these things in this way. Fuck all that shit. Just rock it out, and stay away from the fucking grifters. If you're in a comment section where people are like talking about like the beauty of being white, you need to just eject from that shit immediately, because that's not what any of this shit is about.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. I think we're good to wrap up, but there's one last thing I kind of want to put out there. Maybe do a little last minute gardening. I like to think of myself as a bit of a gardener on this show, where I just take little ideas like seeds and I just like sprinkle them out there into the void, into the 5G signals, beaming messages into everyone's head. And I want to say, I know for a lot of queer people, bringing it back to Pride Month, a lot of queer people will live in like little polycules, or like they'll have like roommate situations where you've got like 4 or 5 people like pooling their expenses together to like rent a big apartment or something. I want to say, if you can make it work, if you do the research to like find a good like rural living situation that works for you, I can think of nothing that would be funnier in the next like decade or so. If we take all the cosmopolitan queers and just start like siphoning them out to the countryside and just like tear down that rural urban divide, just like let's go behind enemy lines, let's just gay up the country. I think that would be funny as fuck.
That would be fucking awesome.
I think a lot of you would be actually like healthier for it. I think you'd touch grass. I think you would make friends. I think you would get to know your neighbors. I think you would, I don't know, maybe be involved in some missing persons cases and just like, you know, dig 8 feet deep and plant some like endangered crops or whatever over top. I don't know, just living out a fantasy. We're talking about fantasies here, just purely fantasy in Minecraft, in Roblox, you know, just the idyllic. This is what Cottagecore is all about. Maybe, I don't know, just
in Stardew
you know
Valley.
What I mean?
In Stardew Valley.
Yeah, in Stardew Valley.
Yeah.
I think, okay, I haven't played Stardew Valley in a while, but if I remember right, in the end game there's like a witch NPC, and you can like give her like items in exchange for like magic amulets and shit to just like disappear your kid if you want to just get rid of your character's like child that you had with another character.
Oh, I never got to the
like
end
that.
of the game. I would usually play with friends, and I'd be so annoying that they would stop playing with me.
Yeah, if I remember right, let me look up her name really quick. Stardew Valley. Was it Abigail? Yeah, I think there's a whole thing where it was implied that the character Abigail, that her real dad was like the local wizard or something, because they both have purple hair or some shit. I don't know. There's a lot of like kind of dark magical shit in Stardew Valley. It's a great game. You should play it, guys.
Yeah. Stardew's cool.
It's cool. Yeah. Anyway, I guess the point to take away from this is you guys should move out to the country and be that weird local wizard that all the neighbors pay to disappear their kids or something.
Amen. This is your
abandon the church, become the children of the corn. I think that's our takeaway.
Yeah, this is your lot in life. You need to become the weird country wizard who disappears children. Sounds cool.
Yeah. In Stardew. Anyway, let's wind things down. I think let's give a shout out to our lovely patrons. I think.
Yeah, all right. So we have 2 new patrons in this episode, and ooh-wee. Wow, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah, let's give them a special shout out, and then I think we'll just go down the line.
Yeah, we have Braid Zero, a lovely person, and thank you for hopping on the man train in honor of Pride Month. And also Trevor Stilson, an absolute G. Also, thank you for hopping on the man train in honor of Pride Month, guys. Welcome.
Thank both of you guys. Also, special shout out to Trevor, who quite recently bought me Hades 2 on Steam. I feel like such a cunt because I just haven't had the time to play it yet. But I love you, dude. Thanks so much. It's amazing. I'm getting on that soon.
Yeah, he got me Tabletop Simulator too, but we haven't successfully played a game of Munchkin yet. But we're gonna do it. We're going to do it.
Yeah, Trevor, you rule. Yeah. Brad, you're also very cool. I know you're a fellow tabletop head. Love to have you aboard.
Yeah. And we can all hop in there. But yeah, and then also we have our OG patrons. We got Heresy. Thank you, brother. We got Dimbus. We got Nilly. We got Weasel. We got Walker. We got Clam, Trash Bins, Nick, Protagon, and Shalom Guy. Thank you all so much for your continued support. We love and respect the ever-loving fuck out of all of you. When I eventually buy the cottage, the cottage out there, you are all cordially invited to the Super Despair World Polycule. But
I can't wait for you guys to drink of my blood and eat my sausages. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, but I can't do the dishes because of like former trauma. So you're all gonna have to do that.
No worries. By the way, not only do you guys support the show, but don't forget, as of the upload of this episode, we have another episode just waiting for you guys over on the Patreon. And if anybody else wants to give it a listen, banger episode, we're going to put those out more regularly, at least 1 or 2 a month. Get on that. Check it out. You won't be disappointed.
Yeah. It was a good one. It was a good one for sure. So I think y'all will enjoy it, and that's going to be up on the Patreon. And also, if you join the Patreon, there is going to be a little RSS feed for the podcast apps if you're into that kind of thing. So either whatever way you like to listen to this beautiful little show.
We got it all, baby.
We got it all, baby. We figured out how to do the internet and the technology and all this type of shit. Fuck yeah.
Hell yeah. Okay, I think that's a good wrap. Hope you guys stay with us. Enjoy all the fun madness we've got in store for Pride Month and the whatever we've got cooking on the Patreon. That's a wrap. Good night, everybody.
Yeah, fuck yeah. Good fight. Good night.